If you are always thinking about like an exit strategy, you're always going to be relevant. Prepare it. Even if you keep it for generations, you're always going to be ready for a pivot.
Welcome to the Legacy Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Beauparlant, here to guide you through the journey of selling your business and building a personal brand that leaves a lasting impact. On the show, we'll explore real-life founder stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you navigate the transition, avoid post-sale crisis, and create your impact-driven legacy brand. Whether you're thinking of selling, building to sell, or already on the other side, this podcast is your go-to resource for making your next evolution your best one yet. Let's dive in. Today on the Legacy Branding Podcast, I'm joined by Monica Garcia. She's a viral financial expert, billion-dollar business coach, and the creator of the Financial Bites Method. Monica brings over 30 years of experience from Wall Street to the entrepreneurial world, helping founders build powerful businesses and rich, aligned lives. She's known for blending financial clarity with nervous system wisdom and helping visionary entrepreneurs scale sustainably, exit wisely, and avoid burnout. Welcome to the show, Monica.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me. I'm excited to be here, and hopefully we give your audience an amazing recording today.
Absolutely. And I know when I first read your bio, I was like, ooh, a rich, aligned lives. I love that that's the work that you do, because it's not just about monetary wealth, but this living an aligned life. And I think that is so important. And you have had your own exit story and you help entrepreneurs in so many different ways. So I'm really excited for our conversation. And I know this is going to be really valuable for people listening.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, I think alignment is so important.
Absolutely. So you've worked with founders from startup stages to multi-million dollar exits. What do you find that most financially empowered founders do differently, especially in those years leading up to a sale?
Yeah, I think what really sets people apart is just having this like growth mindset, this open mindset, right? Because the reality of it is life is challenging. And as a business owner, there's always something, right? Some obstacle or anything that can happen. And sometimes we get tired just dealing with the business, but then sometimes we need to bring in experts to help out with different aspects of our business. So somehow to have that like clarity that maybe sometimes you're gonna have to do something a little bit hard. You're gonna have to bring in an expert and listen and being able to do that. Whatever it is that you want, and then allowing the person that you're getting to help you actually help you.
Yeah, I think it's acknowledging that we are not great at every aspect. And some of this work has to be, I was going to say outsourced. And yes, it does. I mean, you're still going to be a part of it. But I think one of the powerful things that entrepreneurs can do is to understand where they are not good and where they're actually going to hold back the business and make things more challenging today, but also down the road. And it's usually a lack of a skill set that we don't have, that maybe we don't even really need to have.
Exactly. And I think focus on what you're good at and do that, right? Because I think that energy, right? Because that's going to make you happy. So just allow other people to help you out in terms of your business. And I think that's something that for us, sometimes we had to make really hard decisions while we were growing our company and the market turns or anything that happens. And so you take the pulse and you make the decision and then just deal with it, right? Like just deal with it. It's just part of the process.
Absolutely. And I love that you touched on that. And I know that exit strategy is part of your Financial Bites method. And I think that's really amazing. And it sounds like that's because of your background and your experience with exiting and the financial side. So maybe you can share a little bit about your own exit story and how you've woven that exit strategy piece into your work.
Yeah. So there's something to be said about like, it kind of sounds interesting, but this idea of exiting, right? Anything that you start, like, where's the exit? And it sounds a little bit like, okay, then you're not committed, or it could be, wow, the growth is so fast. There could be all of these stories or narratives around it. But I think what is most important is if you really think about your company in terms of exit strategy and prepare it. Because even if you keep it for generations, if you are always thinking about like an exit strategy, you're always going to be relevant. You're always going to be ready for a pivot, something that comes up, right? I don't know, COVID. And you're going to be able to handle all of these easier than if you're not really thinking about exiting. So having an exit strategy, one, you can definitely just exit. And if somebody comes knocking on your door and says, hey, we're interested in your business, hey, guess what, I'm ready. You can ask for top dollar, right? But on the other hand, even if you want to keep it and you have the exit strategy framework, you could go away for 6 months and that whole company is going to work pretty well on its own, right? Because you have your systems and you have your standard operating procedures. Now your business is running like a business, not just like maybe something that you have to be part of every single day. Because that is tough. That is tough, right? Like even founders need to have a day off and be able to take a break.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reality is that we will all exit our business one way or another.
That's right.
Right? That is the reality, everybody. Guess what? You may not be planning for an exit or have an exit strategy, but one day, by choice or by force or by a pandemic or a something or a death or an injury or whatever it is, somehow, someday you will exit your business. But having that strategy in place prepares you to be more flexible, I think, to be more nimble, to have all of your things aligned, SOPs and systems, so that you can be prepared for any contingency.
Exactly. Think of like having an exit strategy. So, for example, or like if you're going to move from one house to the other, right? So, for your new house, you have a couple of closets. I have not looked in those closets for years, or like 20 years, whatever, right? Like, are you going to take all of that stuff with you? Probably not. You haven't used it, right, in that length of time. So that when you think of an exit strategy and you think of like you're moving from one house to another, like your business, right? Is it ready? Like, are there parts of your business that you're not looking at that maybe you should? Maybe it's costing you money, some of these parts, right? And maybe it could bring more revenue or profit to your bottom line. So I think there's so many reasons to really think and, have your business ready in that framework, because it really makes your whole life easier.
Why do you think so many founders avoid planning for their exit until maybe it's too late or something? Somebody comes in with an offer, but they're not prepared. Is it that they just don't know what they don't know, or do you think there's some other reason?
That's a great question. I think probably a little bit of both of those. One, they don't know what they don't know. And then I think the other, it could be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to sell my company. I built this. And they get so emotionally attached to it, which I don't think those are bad things, but there are people. If I really think about it, though, I don't think there's anybody really to help you get organized for an exit strategy unless you're ready, right? Unless you go to like an investment banking firm or you go to somebody else, a consultant. And usually, I'll tell you another thing, that does get a bit pricey. So if founders are thinking about exiting and getting ready, like maybe think about putting some money aside so you can bring somebody to help you. And also the other part of it is just realize that this could make your bottom line just so much better. Like that could be a really good investment in your company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you talk a lot about financial clarity, and I think that is so important. What do you think is like the biggest blind spot for so many founders when it comes to their numbers?
I think a big part of it depends on the founder, right? Like they may be strong here or they may not be strong there. This may be their like sweet spot. So I think if they are your financials, you kind of have to take a look at it. Sometimes like even pull yourself out of the company. So if you can do that, then you look at it through a more neutral lens. And that is very, very helpful. Sometimes to just kind of pull yourself out and then just kind of observe it and just take a look at it like, oh, wow, that works really good. Like, oh, wow, what's going on there, right? Because when you're in the middle of it, it's probably hard to see all the pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, like how long after your business exit did you shift into what you're doing now? Can you talk us through that timeline and journey?
Yeah, sure. So when we sold our company, we had the golden handcuffs, if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had to hang out for 3 years. We were fine with that. And then after that, we actually ended up taking 2 years off. because we
Okay.
moved
Yeah.
and we took 2 years off. And then after that, then we decided, okay, well, let's just start working. So then that was 2023. And so now this is the third year of doing what we're doing now. So yeah, for the past 3 years.
Yeah, amazing. Can you talk a little bit more about your past business and what led to the sale and a little bit of that journey?
Yeah, so it was a digital marketing company. We actually moved from San Francisco area to Seattle, and we had some other founders, and so it was a great opportunity. We had just had our first child, so it was great. It was a great move. It's absolutely gorgeous in the Seattle area, and it's great for raising kids. So then we just had the company, and then just it would grow year over year, and then after probably like year 11 through 13, we started thinking about selling it, and then we did like finally try to sell it like at year 13, and then as I said, we had to rebrand and get it ready with all the systems, and so that took about 3 years, and then we sold.
Okay, so you did go through a rebranding in order to sell it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we definitely did. Yes.
So what prompted that? Like, what did you see in the brand that needed to shift to make it more sellable?
I think what we definitely had to do is pull ourselves out of the picture. So we got all the owners out. So then the branding people came in and they just started creating the systems and, of course, the products, pretty much, right? Our systems were the products. And then we had lots of clients. So that was everything that was going to get sold is now our standard operating procedures and our client list.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's the work that we do for people is actually help pull out the founders from the business brand. That is a signature piece of the work that we do because so many founders, in fact, all of them typically, unless they've done this work, are so deeply embedded and tied to the business brand that you don't know where one ends and the other begins, and they don't know who they are without the business.
Yeah.
And it makes the business harder to sell because then the founders, they may have a long earn out and they may not want that to the same degree. But also, if you're it, if you're the business, it makes the business harder to sell. And so I think you obviously understood that early on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it is when a buyer's looking at you, there has to be a story and it has to be clear. And I think the branding, right, the marketing, the whoever you hire, right, to come in, they help with all that. So they make everything very clear. So when a buyer's looking at it, there's no confusion like, oh, so who does what, right? Like you could see everything from like the structure, the logistics, the day to day, everything is very, very clear. And we also had to do our accounting as well to make sure that we had a third party that had nothing to do with us to come in and take care of our books and stuff. Because the buyers also, they had their accounting firms obviously take a look. These are things that actually will help you make more money at the end if you take care of these ahead of time, be proactive with this.
Yeah. So would you say that rebranding helped you garner a higher price?
100%. It was expensive, but it was like one of the best investments we've ever made.
Do you have a sense of like how much, like what the investment was compared to what, like, not, you don't have to give us specifics, but just a percentage of like you put in this and it brought this much more from a branding perspective?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot, but we got a lot. So it was like exponential returns. Yeah. It was,
Amazing.
yeah, it was completely worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll definitely be using that clip in my social media.
No, you should. You should. Seriously, this stuff is real. I mean, and the clarity, I think when buyers are looking at stuff, they're looking at the financials, they're looking at, does this make sense? Right? I was on another podcast and I was telling him it's like having a house. Like if you don't clean up your house, fix that hole, or just all these little maintenance things in it. Right?
Yeah.
You don't make it turnkey. Somebody's going to come look at it. They're either going to charge you tons less, or if there's another house right down the road, they're going to take the other house. So if you take care of all of these things ahead of time, right, it's not a big investment compared to what you're going to get at the other side.
I wrote a blog post comparing the investing in fixing up the house and staging it before selling it. Maybe you invest 20,000, but you can make an extra 100 on the sale of your house. You put that into business and you 10x it, right? It's just getting over that initial like, okay, we've got to make this change and spend the time to do this. Sometimes it's time more than money in many ways, but seeing how much more of a return. And what I've heard too is that it can actually bring in more buyers, which leads to more competition. And you don't have to just take the one offer. You've got multiple offers because you have a desirable brand.
That's what like good real estate agents do for their sellers, right? They get them all prepared and then they put a nice amount, right? And then you do have a whole bunch of people that see the value in the property. It looks amazing, turnkey. And then there's more people that are interested in it. So 100% you're correct.
Hey founders, quick shameless plug for the sponsor of this podcast and my company, Lab Creative, where we help ambitious founders untangle their personal brand from their business so they can position the company to sell and build a personal brand for their next evolution. If that sounds like you, head to labcreative.ca to check out our work and to book a call with me. Or if you want to just dip your toe in first, grab a copy of the Founders Brand Playbook. It's our free step-by-step guide to building a brand that attracts premium buyers and creates opportunities for you post-sale. You can download it at labcreative.ca/playbook.
I read that you share that your business should serve your life. And I love that perspective. We're definitely aligned on that. It's not the other way around. So, would love for you to just share a little bit more about how you've now built a business that serves your life and what that looks like and how that might help other entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I have that 80-20 rule, which is kind of interesting. I could go into the interesting part later. But the 80-20 rule, like 20% of what you do is what really gets you all the results. So 80% of what you do are distractions. So if you could be a little intentional, a little reflective, right? Take the time to just kind of look at stuff from a holistic view. I think that will help you maybe get rid of distractions, declutter, like things that you actually don't need. And I think when you do that, then you could be more in alignment with what your needs are and your business, right? So rather than like just being overwhelmed in chaos, you're working in clarity, right? Because now you don't have 100% of the thing, you only have 20%. So it's going to take you less time. Plus that 20% is probably going to feed you more emotionally, money, time. It's going to give you so much more back. So I think in that way, right, doing some of that work ahead of time, seeing what's most important. What's the purpose of the business? Because we all have a purpose, right? And just being really in alignment with that and then running your business that way, like not forgetting that. It's almost like your North Star. If you can do that, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. You're going to enjoy your business more. Your employees are going to understand, right? Because employees also, when they work, they want to know what's going on. And if there's a lot of confusion or chaos, they can be kind, but that doesn't mean that they're not stressed because they sometimes don't know what's going on. They also want to be able to tell the clear story. And they actually love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it shouldn't just be all held in the owner's or the founder's head. It should be something shared with the team. Like for me, my team, we're small, or there's only three of us, but like they understand like why we do what we do, what this business stands for, how to talk about it, how to represent the brand. And ultimately, that attracts the right employees and the right clients, and it can attract the right buyers as well.
Exactly. I love that you're saying that. That's exactly right. The clarity is so, so important. It makes everybody happy. It makes everybody happy.
And that North Star, it's so important because I think, especially for founders who are considering an exit, the exit is one step in the journey, but it's considering what comes next. And that is really the work that we focus on so much. It's helping you get that clarity. And I always say, I don't care what you do after, but if you understand why you do what you do and the impact that you want to create so that you have purpose, then you can reverse engineer that into whatever that looks like. But when you have clarity around that one thing, right, that whatever percentage you said, the 80-20, so that if you know this is the North Star, it helps detract you from all of those shiny objects and the distractions that so often come up. You're like, ooh, this would be interesting. Ooh, this would be interesting. But I always say, look it through the lens of, does this opportunity, business deal, whatever, get me closer to my goals, my dream, and my mission, or further away? And if it's closer, then it's a yes. And if it's further, then it should be a no.
And I think right there, that's clarity. That's complete clarity. And to give that to somebody and have them use that as a barometer to just measure. That helps them so much. Their decision making, so much to stay away from distractions, stuff that is gonna pull your time, energy, and money. If you have more of that, you're going to be a happier person. That's just a happier founder. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I do what I do and why I love the work that I get to do, because it is really helping them to identify that. Because when you get post sale, you may have all the money you need, but it can be easy to spend it in ways that don't have meaning, or suddenly you've blown through it and look back and go, if I had had that clarity on my purpose,
Yeah.
I would have been more intentional about how I spend my time and how I spend my money.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think in general, whether it's founders or anything, you should always be thinking about what is it that I want, right? Then, like you said, measuring it, is that going to get me closer? But it's interesting, when we sold our company, I actually went to a class and they're like, just go to the beach for 8 months. Do not do anything with your funds. Because I can't even imagine people selling their companies, all of that work, all of those funds that can make your life completely different, and then just not even knowing, like, well, what happened to it? Like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say about that, but I know that happens sometimes. And
Yeah. And then the people who come out of the woodwork, right?
oh my
Suddenly
gosh.
distant relatives and old friends.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's why, like, when you have an event like that, if you just take off for 8 months, don't do anything, go to the beach, then when you come back, you have very clear. At the end of the day as well, it's unstabilizing. And so you have to let your nervous system and everything just settle down and then make your good decisions from there. You won't worry about somebody that you don't know, or don't pay your taxes. Or it's kind of interesting. When we had our event, we did have a lot of people trying to influence us one way or the other. And because it just happened, so you're trying to recalibrate, you're trying to like just process it, right? And so just to have that, like, sorry, I ain't doing anything for 8 months, then that's it. The conversation's over.
Yeah, I think boundaries really come into play there.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, so you just mentioned nervous system, and I definitely want to dive into that because that's not something I've talked about before on this podcast, and I think it is so important.
Yeah.
And I will preface this by saying I've just been going through something on a personal level myself, and my nervous system was so taxed. Like it was just, it felt like it was jacked up. It felt like it was depleted. I went through the full physical and mental ramifications of that. And I had to put up some serious boundaries. And I was like, these are things I am not spending my time on. These are the only things that I'm spending my time on. I knew what was happening. I have enough work I've done on myself over the years that I'm like, I understood what was happening in my nervous system and that I needed to care for that in a really big way. And I'm happy that I'm sort of on the other side of that, what had been happening in my personal life. But like that was so taxing. And I would love for you to just talk about the nervous system and what you've seen and the work you do and how people can start to have a positive impact on their nervous system, or to look for those clues when they need support.
Yeah, yeah. So I love what you were saying, that you have enough experience to like, okay, I see the trigger, something's happening now. I think that's absolutely amazing. I did write a book on breath work. So it's the power of breath. Yeah. So meditation, just even breathing, there's definitely ways to help your nervous system. And I absolutely love what you said, where you're like, okay, red light, something's going on, boundaries, right? And then you execute, like, I can do this, I can't, yes, no, right? And so that's like just really getting in there and protecting yourself and putting yourself in a safe space. For founders, this is really, really important stuff. The nervous system can be triggered for many reasons, right? We're driving down the road. The breathing is really, really important to help the nervous system. And I think just being aware, and the boundaries are absolutely amazing. I think part of it as well is kind of that self-awareness and giving yourself space to have that self-awareness and giving yourself space to just stop, right? And just maybe take a breather or take a walk. That life happens. And I think when life happens, that's when we're like, how are we going to handle this? Or is this going to like totally derail us? Or is this going to be a hiccup, right? How do we get back on track to whatever it is? Or how much downtime do I need, right? Like sometimes you can, for your nervous system, if it is something, take some time off or put an hour per day to deal with that and then carry on, right? Whatever it is that you need to do in your life. So, yeah.
And I know I did a breathwork session this morning. I do them fairly frequently since I discovered that. I think it was early in the pandemic. I did my first breath work, somebody who was offering them virtually, and it was just, felt very life changing for both my husband and I in that time. And we've gotten our kids to do it, and meditation, because we see the importance of that and that stepping away. And I think that piece of what you're doing, like, it's not just about financials, it's not just about branding. Your nervous system and your physical and mental health are so important in the process, especially if you're going to sell your business, because you will be pushed and poked and prodded and overrun and overwhelmed, and your nervous system is going to take the brunt of that. And if you don't understand it and don't know what to do about it, that's when sickness, injury, illnesses, things happen that can derail your life and your business and the sale of a business.
I'm loving what you're saying now. I think actually the reason that I wrote the book is almost every successful person does breath work or meditation. That's why I wrote the book. I'm like, I got to remember to do this. This is like, I don't try to rewrite the script, right? I just follow what successful people do and I do that, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all doing something different, but there are some markers that they work. And they're universal. So definitely. So the other part of it is, I love what you were saying, to just really be in tune with yourself. And the other part of it is have these discussions about, even with yourself, right? Write it down in your journal. What do you want for your business? How do you want this to turn out, right? And then when things happen, right? Inevitably they do,
Yep.
then you just get through it. But stay on track to whatever it is that you're doing, because the reality of it is that in like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, if you were able to just really do the self-care, but then also continue to move forward, 3 years, 5 years, you're going to be very happy that you did take care of yourself. And I don't really think that you have to go into like some of these really like difficult places, but the way you stay out of those is you do the breath work, you do the meditation, right? Because you need to have like a release, right? Because there is a lot of pressure and you really have to have a release. So a walk, right? Exercise, enough sleep, eating well. I actually was interviewed for an article and they were talking about like just some of these basic needs for business owners. And I did really basic stuff. Drink water, stay hydrated, get your 8 hours of sleep, right? Very basic stuff. I took a class at MIT at their business school. And so I'm there with all these high achievers, like MIT, right? This has to be something with computers. It was neuroscience for leadership. Guess what? All they talked about was your physiology. Don't drink coffee after 2. Get enough sleep. Drink water, take a break every like 30 minutes. So all these very basic stuff. And the person that was teaching that, she's a doctor and most of her clients are all these bankers. And they have like heart attacks and stuff. And this is what she teaches them. So really, these things, they're serious. They're game changers. You do not have to get sick. You do not have to do all that. Do these little things to just really have the self-care. Right? I just love your story, how clear you were with your boundaries and just saying, it's almost like you have to recalibrate. You have to go and take care of yourself. Like 5 things, nope, sorry, there's no way. I'm not even going to look at that. These 2 things I will still look at, but I need all of this space to take care of myself. That is champion material right there. That's how you get through anything. Like that's real. And that's how the highest level of people that are experiencing success and just having a purpose and just really living, that's how they do it. They do have very clear boundaries. And when you do that, you can actually give more to yourself, to your family, to your community, to your business.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I feel like a champion now. So thank you.
You are,
I
Laura.
mean, it's not without work. Like I mean, it's been decades of listening to myself and looking for the clues and understanding that now, if I don't do something with this, what's happening right now, something is going to happen, right? I often say that at first the universe is going to come in with a whisper. and then a tap. And then it'll come in with a sledgehammer if you don't listen. And that's where things like breath work and taking care of yourself. And who knew getting 8 hours of sleep and drinking water and not drinking coffee after two
Yeah.
would be the key to a successful life, and that we actually have to teach that.
Yeah.
But that is the reality. And what I love is that, at least in the groups of entrepreneurs that I'm in, self care, and we do things like cold plunging and saunas and not drinking or drinking in limited amounts and exercise. And we'll go for hikes or go to a dance party instead of a typical, let's go eat a big heavy meal and sit for hours drinking wine. Like, we're doing more active things because people are understanding the importance of that in their life. I'll go for a bike ride in the middle of the day
Love it.
because that's also when I do my best thinking.
Oh my God, that's so funny because I was just on LinkedIn and there's a guy, his name's Andrew Aziz. He teaches people how to trade. And he was talking about running and how that's like meditation and that he gets a lot of ideas. And I thought of, have you ever heard of Gordon Ramsay? He does all these like competitions with chefs and stuff. He does Ironmans. I do have Ironmans. And he says most of his best ideas come on his bike ride. So it's just like what you're saying right now with your hikes, right? That's where a lot of your ideas. I love that you're saying this because that is going to help you holistically. Like all of these decisions that you're making, right? Like you're showing up better, right? You have more to offer your audience, yourself. You just feel amazing. Like the physiology is real. That stuff is real. And a lot of people do not even pay attention to it. But it makes a big difference.
I believe in, I call it living a selfish life of meaning. So, like, I need to get selfish and figure out what I want and make sure that I'm taking care of me, that putting on my oxygen mask first. Because if I'm unhealthy, if I'm not taking care of myself to help everybody else, who am I really helping? And how am I'm not actually showing up at my best for my team, for my clients, for my family, my kids, my friends, everybody, if I'm not taking care of me first. And that is just a universal, that's not just for founders, that is for everybody out there, that we need to actually put ourselves first more than we actually do.
I love that. And it would be nice for more people to understand that because then they're going to be doing better. They're going to be operating better. They're going to be happier. And then it just creates more happiness. So I think that's so amazing. And it's interesting, though, the way you phrased it, like selfish, right? Because unfortunately, that's the narrative in our society, but it's actually a beautiful, important thing that you do. And it's not selfish at all. It's actually a very beautiful thing for you to take care of yourself. Because for you to take care of yourself, you're taking care of everybody else. And I think that is the way the narrative should really be learned, and not the other way around. I think everybody should take care of themselves because I think if you do, you're just happy. You're happy, right? And you should do that without any guilt.
Yeah. You can give a lot more, actually. I have a talk where I redefine the word selfish because if you look it up in the dictionary, it's terrible. It's like,
Yeah.
that you're taking care of yourself to the detriment of others. And I'm like, what if it couldn't? Who defined this? Who wrote that?
That's what I do, Laura. It's like I say narratives are narratives. Like who wrote that? Like why should we believe that, right? I always say, who wrote that? Is that helpful? If it is, then great. But if it's not, let's move on. Like I'm just not even going to like look at it because it's the 80% that's a distraction. It's wasting my time.
And there's enough of those out there. So, this podcast is called Legacy Branding, and I always ask people about what legacy means to them. So, I'd love to know, what does legacy mean to you, and what is the legacy that you're creating, Monica?
Yeah, so I think for me, legacy is to leave like an imprint in society that kind of like some of the stuff we're talking about in terms of you taking care of yourself, right? So my book, the most important thing in my book is unconditional self-love, right? Like you never, ever, ever leave yourself. You're always there for yourself. You're supporting yourself, right? There's no reason that you should ever like abandon yourself, right? And learn how to have that unconditional self-love. Learn how to go back home to who you are, to your gift, to your soul. If I could leave that legacy for people to just like show up in your awesomeness, show up in like your amazing gift, right? And do that because I'll tell you what, people enjoy, like if you watch somebody and if they're in their gift and their flow, you can't help but just to like, whoa, that's so cool, right? Because a person's really enjoying themselves and they're just on fire. I mean, music, like if you even listen to music that is not your genre, but that person is so amazing. Like it doesn't matter if it's your genre or not. You're like, that is the best, right? So I think that's a legacy is like, you have something very special. Like do that, be that, show up with that. Everybody wants to see that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us and tell the people listening a bit more about what you do, how you work, and maybe there's some people listening that need your support.
Yeah, so I help founders and I help businesses scale if that's your thing. I'm very good at maximizing strategy at a very high level. I could be reached at www.monicagarciadougall.com. And I also have a PDF for people to download on the Bites method, and it kind of gives you a very simple framework. So yeah, and I have some offerings on my website as well. I am also starting a podcast, Monica's Money Moves, a talk show, and I'll be also doing live events to help people with the whole mindset, right? Like just to kind of allow yourself to be successful as well, because people are afraid of fear. A lot of people are also afraid of success.
I feel like we could have a whole other conversation on that. Being afraid of success, that's a much deeper conversation we can get into another time. That is amazing. We will make sure to include all the links to your site and the resources that you have, and we will definitely stay tuned for your podcast coming up as well. Thanks for being here, Monica.
I'll have to invite you, Laura, onto my podcast.
Yes, I would love to be a guest.
Yes.
Thanks again for sharing your story and your insights.
Thank you. Really appreciate you inviting me.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Legacy Branding Podcast. I hope today's episode has inspired and empowered you on your journey to building a brand that truly matters. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other founders who you think would benefit from listening. And if you're ready to take the next step in building your legacy brand, visit our website, labcreative.ca, to learn more and book a call. Don't forget to join us next time for more conversations that will help you navigate your transition and create your legacy. Until then, I'm Laura Beauparlant.